I remember my girlfriend ends up laying down on the bed and she said to me, Baba, get me pregnant, or honestly, we should just break up. And at that moment, I didn't know what to do. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Baba, and welcome back to a really insane story. So this story all takes place back in my high school years, and this was my grade 12 year. So the year that I was graduating. Now, in your grade 12 year, one thing I will say is that usually that's the year when you're supposed to figure out life. The part of life where basically you are needing to know what is your career going to be and how are you going to basically satisfy yourself in the future. Obviously, thanks to you guys, by the way, I managed to become a YouTuber, which, I mean, if you guys press that like button, it would mean a lot. But one thing's for sure, before I became a YouTuber, I really did not know what I was gonna do, and the only thing I was good at was doing the Devil's Tango. And in my grade 12 year, I remember there was one girl that I was always doing the Devil's Tango with, to the point where I'm not gonna lie, she seemed like my girlfriend. The reason I say this was because she would always go out with me and we'd always go to like dinners and stuff, and I would basically always drive her around, and honestly, the whole school thought of us as a couple, so we ended up kind of just becoming one. But one thing was for sure, every time me and this girl would have a conversation about the future, about where we see ourselves in the next 5 years, none of us would have an answer. Except one thing was for sure, in this girl's mind, she knew that she wanted to be a mother. Now, one thing's for sure, me in grade 12, I was only 19, so I could not see myself being a parent at all. Like, nor did I ever want to be. But this girl, she was so firm on it, and me and her, every time after we would do the Devil's Tango, she would always bring up in conversation. As for me, well, I would always try to ignore this conversation and, you know, move on to talk about different things, but she would always end up saying, Baba, you do realize, like, you have to, like, eventually make kids because, like, your family legacy. I don't know. She made it seem like this was something like Game of Thrones kind of thing where I needed a new heir of, like, being the god of Devil's Tango. But honestly, one thing I will say was that I really did not care at all about kids at this time. The only thing I cared about was where I was going to be in the next 5 years. Going on with the story, I remember the next day, I actually ended up going to school, and basically when I went to school, I ended up seeing a bunch of my friends that were just sitting in the cafeteria, and me and all the guys would sit in the corner where most people wouldn't annoy us or bug us, and we could have crazy conversations. And I remember when I went and sat with them, they were all talking about, you know, what university they were going to and stuff, and me, I never really had an answer because I didn't go to university, nor college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. And then I remember one of my friends in my friend group ended up looking at me saying, oh, Bubba, did you know actually my girlfriend's actually going to be in the same college as me? Dude, we're going to go through college together, and honestly, I cannot wait to marry her. At that moment, I remember when he said that, I didn't really know what to say back, and then he ended up saying afterwards, wait, Bubba, I'm just wondering, what's your girlfriend's plan? Are you guys planning to like stay together after high school? And me, I never really had an answer, except the only thing I could say was, well, if I'm being honest, the only thing my girlfriend cares about right now is getting pregnant. Like, she just wants a kid, bro, so badly. I remember they all ended up looking at me as if I was crazy for bringing that up, but at the same time, this was nothing outlandish that we haven't heard before as the boys. And they ended up looking at me, and one of them ended up saying, yo, bro, just be careful, man, because if she's like gets desperate, bro, like she would go to extreme lengths just to make sure you finish inside. Wait, what do you mean? Is what I asked him afterwards. And they ended up telling me a story about how a girl got secretly pregnant. I don't know. It was one of the most insane stories, I gotta say, and maybe I'll tell it one day on the channel, but it wouldn't be my own story, so I don't know why I would say it on the channel. But one thing was for sure, this kind of scared me, because was it really a thing to get baby trapped? Was it normal for girls to trap people into getting themselves pregnant and staying with the person forever? Well, let's just say yes, because what ends up happening next, I gotta say, was extreme. I remember the next day, I ended up getting a message from my girlfriend at the time, and she texted me saying, hey, Bubba, I'm just curious. I got a job at a daycare. Do you want to come with me and drop me off on the first day? And I ended up texting her back, sure, because obviously, you know, her getting a job was a good step for, you know, the future. And basically, I remember that day, I ended up going to go pick her up from her home, and I ended up driving her to the daycare that she started working at. When I got there, I remember she ended up telling me to come out of the car with her, and we both ended up going into her new workplace. And when I looked around, I saw a ton of kids. Now, me, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't hate kids. I think kids are awesome, and to be honest, as an uncle myself, I love kids. But one thing was for sure was that it was super weird how a lot of these kids, when I walked into the room, they all started looking at me and my girlfriend, and one of them even ended up walking up to me and basically grabbing my leg. Now, obviously, I was a little annoyed, and I ended up basically grabbing him and picking him up and holding him, and basically he ended up talking to me saying random gibberish that I could not understand. At this moment, I remember my girlfriend was looking at me with her eyes wide open, and she was almost tearing up. I don't know why she was, but she just kept staring at me with this crazy eye that she had, and on top of that, she ended up smiling as if she had a diabolical plan in place. And at that moment, I didn't know what it was. I remember after a while, I ended up leaving, and I ended up driving in my car and heading back home. But as I got home, I remember 2 hours went by, and she ended up texting me saying, hey, is it cool if you pick me up like later on? Yeah, sure, I can pick pick you up. Okay, cool. Pick me up at this time. I'll see you at the daycare. And one thing led to another. I remember as hours went by, I ended up getting ready, getting in my car, and I drove down to her. And when I got to the daycare, I remember I ended up seeing her standing by the door holding someone's kid, and I ended up walking up to her saying, hey, like, you ready to go into the car? Yeah, I'm just waiting for one more parent. Honestly, isn't he so cute, Baba? Yeah, he's cute. But where's the parent for this kid? Oh, she'll be here any minute. But honestly, Baba, like, this got me thinking we should really, like, you know, have a kid. Like, I'm sure you'll figure things out and I'm sure we're gonna be okay. But honestly, a kid would really make us closer together. At that moment, I didn't know what this girl was saying, and I basically looked at her saying, you do realize we're both only 19. Like, we have a lot of future ahead of us, is what I told her. And she wasn't listening to any of it. She just kept looking at this child that she was holding and basically ignoring everything I would say. I remember one thing leads to another. The parent ends up coming to pick up their kid, and me and her, we ended up seeing in the car, and we started basically heading back to her place. When we got to her place, I remember she invited me inside saying, hey, do you want to like come in for a bit? Like, I've been missing you a lot. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll come in, is what I told her. And I ended up basically going inside her house. And when me and her got inside, we went straight to her bedroom, and basically I ended up sitting on her bed, and she looked at me saying, Baba, do you want to like maybe make a kid? Like, try it and see if it happens, if fate lets us have it. At that moment, I looked at her and I said, no, bro, because I'm not doing the devil's tango with you to have a child. I'm doing it just for the fun of it. And I remember when I said no, she got really upset, and she just was really annoyed with me because she just kept thinking about having a kid. And honestly, her working at a daycare did not make things any better. I remember afterwards, things got really awkward between me and her, and we just ended up sitting in her room in silence until I want to say 10 minutes went by, and she got up and she ended up going to the bathroom, and she was only in the bathroom for like 3 minutes. But when she came out, she ended up walking up to me saying, Baba, I want to do the devil's tango. Not if you're going to try to make you get pregnant. No, it's okay. Trust me, you could just use this. And she ended up pulling out a rubber, and that's when I knew, okay, so we're just doing it for fun. But I found it really odd how 1 minute she wants a kid and the next minute she's pulling a rubber out. Like, nothing made sense to me, and what made her change her mind so quickly? So that's when I ended up basically looking at the rubber that she handed me, and I went to the bathroom with it, and I put it under the sink, and I turned on the water, and I saw that it had holes in it. This girl was going to try to baby trap me. At that moment, I remember I walked up to her and said, you do realize this has holes in it, right? But oh my goodness, does it really matter? Like, can we just at least like try it once? No, we're not going to. What are you doing? Like, you really trying to baby trap me right now? Is what I told her. And she ended up telling me the words that I never thought would come out of a girl's mouth. But she said, Baba, either you get me pregnant or we're done. You understand me? At that moment, I knew what I had to do. I ended up basically getting my backpack, and I left her house so quickly, and I drove straight home because God knows that I am not going to get someone pregnant at the age of 19. Like, no way, Jose. I was not ready for a kid whatsoever. But if you guys don't want to get baby trapped like I was about to be, then follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.